it's Jess from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my August wrap up. In August I read 18 books, which is really good, not as amazing as my July. I read way more than that. I don't remember. It was in the 20s that I read in July, but school started, so reading kind of tapered off. But 18 is still an amazing number to read in a month, so I will go ahead and get to the books that I read. It just started raining, so hopefully you can't hear that because I need to film right now. So we're just gonna go ahead and get to my books. The first book I finished was on audio, and that is Barbarians Touch by Ruby Dixon. This is book 7 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I gave this 5 stars. It was my favorite of the series that I've read so far. It is about a girl who's actually deaf, and so she wakes up in a pod with her sister that they hadn't noticed or knew that they were there. So she was like in a slumber with her sister, and so she's different from all the other girls who landed there in the first book. I like this, probably my favorite book, like I said, of the series. 5 out of 5 stars. I can't continue with the series though because Scribd is annoying, and someone hacked into my account. They changed my password, and Scribd asked for a picture of my credit card, and I was like, no. And they like said cover up all the digits with the last 4 and show your name and take a picture of it and send it to us, and I'm just like, no, I'm not sending anybody a picture of my credit card. I don't care what you can and can't see. And the lady was like, well, I totally understand why you wouldn't, but that's just our policy, so sorry, we're just gonna delete your account. I had like 6 years free on Scribd from how many of you guys used my link, so whatever. I'm not gonna make a new account because then I don't have my 6 years free, and I just don't agree with that policy, so no more Scribd for me. I might try out Audible, but we'll see. But I can't listen to these anymore because it's not in my library, so we'll see if I can finish reading them on Kindle Unlimited. The next 2 books I read, I already have a video of my reviews of them because they all released on the same day, so I'll link that down below. I got this from either Edelweiss or NetGalley, I can't remember, but it is The Right Swipe by Alicia Rye. This one is pretty much like all over Instagram and everything in the past month, and it's about a woman who owns her own dating app, I think, or website, and she had met up with a guy like a month ago, and they had a great night together, and then he ghosted her, and so she's like very salty about it, and she goes to this conference to try to buy this other dating website, and he is the new face of that website, and so they are kind of forced back together. It's pretty much enemies to lovers, kind of second chance. It was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. There's so much more to this, and the 2 characters have their own storylines working, which I really appreciated. It was just really cute. I'd definitely recommend it. The next book I got an e-arc from the publisher, and that is Love at First Like by Hannah Orenstein. This one was super disappointing. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Everybody I know who read it gave it 2 out of 5 stars or 1 out of 5 stars. Nobody I know even liked it. I'm going to put this cover down because it's messing up my lighting. See? Okay. So the annoying part was that it's not a romance. It like was advertised as a romance, and this woman accidentally posts that she's engaged to her jewelry store's account, and they have a ton of followers, and so she saw what it did to their business, and so she decided to like play along, and she's getting like a free wedding and a free dress, and so she decides to go out and find a groom. Instead of it being like a cute fake dating that ended up falling in love, she actually starts dating a guy and like forces herself to be in the relationship, and he's falling for her, and she's saying everything back, and she doesn't actually love him. So it was really annoying. I couldn't like the main character. 2 out of 5 stars. Not a fan. It's starting to rain even more now, so I hope you like this little ambiance of a rainy day if you can hear that. The next chunk of books I read during the used bookathon, I'll leave that vlog down below, and the first one is The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne. One of my new favorite historical romances and books of the year. This one, so good, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Our main character is kind of married when she's younger, like she's like 12 I think, and she falls for a boy at the orphanage they live at, and he ends up saving her, and so fast forward to now, and she still goes by her married name, and she works for a police officer, and then this like highwayman comes in, and he knew her husband. I don't feel weird calling him our husband, but they basically were married. So he knew her husband, and he had known him in the jail that he was at when he died. So our main character has a scar over his face. I believe he lost his eye, if I remember correctly, and he has a very tragic past, and they had to have a marriage of convenience, and it's just so good. I loved it so much. Scar damage hero. The ending, I almost cried, so definitely recommend this if you like historicals. Next, I listened to Barbarians Taming by Ruby Dixon. This is book 9 in the Ice Planet Barbarian? I already forget. But this is the sister of the previous book, and she is a fat main character, which I really appreciated, and she's very stubborn, and it's with the guy that kidnapped her sister from the previous book. So really fun. I give it 4 to 5 stars like I've been giving most of the books except for the one right before this, so I enjoyed it. So I have a handful of 2-star books this month with Never Happens. I rarely give books 2 stars. I was just reading really bad books this summer, so I read A Kiss at Midnight, which was our group book for the used bookathon. It was my buddy read with Kayla, and I really hated it. I gave it 2 stars. It was supposed to be a Cinderella retelling historical romance, and I was confused like 60% of the time. I didn't get the prince or why he wanted to marry this girl. She went to this like ball in place of her stepsister because her stepsister was bitten by her dog on the mouth, and so they don't even really look alike, but she went anyways in her place and no one believed it. It was weird. I just did not get this book. 2 out of 5 stars. Not a fan. The next book I read was Highland, Ecstasy by Mary Burkhart. This one I got a used book sale over the summer, and it takes place in Scotland right after the Battle of Culloden. It has to do with the politics of what happened, and so our main character fakes his death after they tell him he has to leave and give his land and people over to the British, and so he pretends like he killed himself, and so he's really the ghost of his manor. Everyone thinks it's haunted by his ghost. It's really him. And this woman comes who is the daughter of the man who was friends with him, that was British, that was going to take over his land, and so she's there to kind of take over it, and he weirdly, like, she discovers him and he has to pretend he's this unintelligent helper, like that he was bonked on the head and now he has like the mind of like a 6-year-old. So that was a little bit, I guess you would say, problematic. Like, that should not happen. People shouldn't pretend to not have cognitive ability, but this was written in the 90s, so that happened, and it was okay. I give it 3 to 5 stars. It was a very dated historical romance that didn't really live up to today's time. Then I read book 9 in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, and that is Barbarians Heat. Listen to this on audio. This is where the series kind of started going downhill for me. This one is a second chance romance, and the main character, her mate was in an accident, and so he can't remember her, and they have to learn to love each other again. I was pretty bored through this. I gave it 3 to 5 stars. Wasn't my favorite. It was just okay. Next, I read an e-arc of Bad Apple by Elle Kennedy. This is a republished version of Midnight Encounters, which came out in 2008. It is a famous actor who, this girl usually has this 2 nights a year appointment with this guy, and they just use each other whenever he comes into town because she's super busy with everything else in her life. And she gets the wrong room. Well, she gets the right room, but the guy's not in it. This actor's in it, and she slips in and is horrified to learn it's not the guy she's expecting. He's intrigued, and he wants to date her and kind of tracks her down, and it goes from there. This was really fun. Nothing like super amazing. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed how he was famous. So if you like the famous with nobody kind of romance, I think you would enjoy this. Next, I read Half Bad by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This was the Pick What I Read Next book for August, and I gave this 3 to 5 stars. I have a whole review if you want to check it out down below. This one was too much like Vampire Academy in my opinion. We have a girl who was found after she had run away for years with her mom, and she is taken back to this training school where there are half-bloods and purebloods, and the half-bloods are either fighters or servants, and the purebloods are the ones that they're protecting or serving, and she has to train, and she's falling for the guy that's training her because he's volunteered to train her, but it's forbidden because he is a pureblood, she's a half-blood, and he's a trainer. And then there's kind of going to be a love triangle, and I don't know, I felt like it was pretty boring, and I wasn't that a fan of the main character. I really don't like the bad girl trope, and she just would break rules for no reason and was annoying and did whatever she wanted, so I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. The last Ice Planet Barbarian book I read, which is book 10, is A Barbarian's Hope. I listened to this on audio, and it was not good. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. This was so boring. It was between 2 aliens, which I wasn't a fan of, and the female alien we've hated throughout the entire series, so I still didn't like her. They were already mated in the beginning, and something happened, and then they like broke up. I know you can do that in this world because they're fated mates, but they did, and I didn't care. Really boring. 2 out of 5 stars. The next one I also have a review up for, and that is Blood Truth by J.R. Ward. This came out this month. I was sent this copy from the publisher. This one is before in the Legacy series, so I can't really tell you much about it. It's Boone story, and him and Butch are kind of trying to solve a murder, and he falls for someone who is connected to the murders because her sister was murdered earlier, and that's all I can say. So it was very much a different world romance because she's from the lower class and he is higher class. I loved all the Boone we got. It was pretty good. I give it 4 to 5 stars. I expected more of the mystery to be more intriguing, and it really wasn't, and the romance was pretty good. 4 to 5 stars. The next one, I have an entire reading vlog of where I read this book, so I'll link that down below, and that is Broken Night by L.J. Shen. I was not given an arc of this, so I had to go out and get it myself once it finally released. And she ended up releasing it a week early, so that was exciting, but this one is book 2 in the All Saints High series, I want to say. It can't be read as a standalone. This is Night and Luna's story. They have been best friends since they were young, and Night's always wanted to do something more. Luna has always pushed him away. She is a selective mute, and it's their romance. I gave it 4 to 5 stars. It was really, really, really good in the beginning. I loved their angst, and then Night became annoying to me, and I didn't really like anything about the ending, so if you want to see my thoughts, check out my vlog because I get to spoilery details at the end, but the beginning is just my initial reactions. So yeah, 4 to 5 stars. Then I read an arc of How to Love a Duke in 10 Days by Kerrigan Byrne. This came out last week, I believe, and it is an arc I was sent from the publisher, so I was very excited for that. So she has 2 best friends, and the beginning is a flashback to when they were young and at school together, and something very bad happened, and they all have to protect each other because of it, and they are all part of this club where they give each other male names, and they want to be very successful women and as strong as men are. And so she's traveling towards this castle, I think, or this like estate to celebrate her friend's engagement to this duke, and she ends up taking her place to marry him, and for a reason, because her friend doesn't really want to do it anyways, and so she takes her place and marries him, and then they're falling in love. She does do like archaeological things, which I think is cool. I gave it 4 to 5 stars because I was reading this while I was working, so I read this during my first full week back at school. It was really hard to keep my attention because I can only read like 10 pages at a time, and then I would just like lose interest during the middle. There was a really slow part during the middle, so I gave it 4 to 5 stars. It was still a really, really good romance. It's just that slow part was killing me, but after that it was really good. The next one I got an e-arc of, and I am just done with this author. I gave this book 1 star. I never give books 1 star, but I just couldn't. It's Catching Him by Aurora Rose Reynolds. It sounded cute. This girl, her cat escapes, and so he keeps on trying to get into her neighbor's kitchen window, and so her new neighbor is hot and she likes him, and this one, literally like 20% in, we knew that they liked each other, and the rest of it was them liking each other. It was pretty boring, and he was like kind of alpha, kind of not, and I just like didn't care about literally anything that happened, and I can't even remember what happened in this book while I'm thinking right now. I was so bored, and it was just like not good, super cheesy dialogue, very, very insta-lovey, and I'm just not, I've never given this author's books, I think, more than 2 stars maybe. I just did not like it. Then I finished Good Gone Bad by Gianna Darling for our live show for the Fallen Men read along. I will link our live show down below. We just did it on Friday. Lots of fun with me and Lacey and Sarah, and this one I gave 4 to 5 stars. Again, this was a reread for me. I just don't like the bad girl. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. The bad girl trope is not my favorite. I just don't like girls who are the bad girl and break all the rules. I can't relate, so I don't like that about them, and I just don't agree with their choices, and so I still really love the MC world. I still really love Danner. He was a great character. It's forbidden. She's an MC daughter, president's daughter, and he is a cop, and they have a history together. He's known her since she was little, and there's like a 9-year age gap. There were just some things that didn't line up for me in the book, and I didn't like Harley Rose as much, but I still love the romance and the conflict that happened within the MC, so I give it 4 to 5 stars. We are starting our own official book club now, so if you are interested in joining us, make sure you follow me and Lacey on Instagram to see our announcements and everything. We're reading the new Amy Harmon book this month, but we haven't set a date yet for what we want to do, so check that out for announcements. Then I finished that book during the 24-hour readathon that Riley Marie and Lainey from Ginger Lady Reads had hosted yesterday, and yesterday was Saturday, and so I finished that book, and I finished an audiobook, and I completely read this book, and I read Offsides by Sawyer Bennett. I give this one 2 stars. This one is just a really short, quick hockey romance, but it was so insta-lovey. Like, the beginning was pretty good. She's a waitress, and she's not that well off, and he's a politician's son, and it just became so soap opera-y by the end. Like, his mother was sabotaging his relationship, and I was just like, I'm tired of reading these books about kids with terrible parents. Like, so many books I read, the parents are literally malicious, that they're ruining their kids' lives because they think they know what's best and they hate their parents, and I'm just like, can we have like nice parents for once? Because I hate when the conflict is the parents. So 2 out of 5 stars. I stopped caring and was very insta-lovey, but yeah. And the last book I read was on audio, and it was a reread, and that's All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. The last time I read this was before it came out last March, and it might have been, no, it was last year's March, so it's over a year, and my friend Sarah at a Polycon had an ARC, so I just read it in a day, and so I remembered parts of it, but not really, and this deals with infertility, and it's a couple, and it flashes back between the then, when they were falling in love and first meeting, and then the now, when they are barely talking to each other because they're dealing with infertility issues, and they don't know how to communicate with one another. So heartbreaking. Almost cried in this one, even though I knew what to expect. I almost cried, and it was just so good. 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely more emotional of a romance. And that is my August wrap up. Let me know down below what you read this month, or what your favorite book you read was, or what you're excited that I read was. And that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.